So I have to tell you before I start that it is very special for me to be in this room with you right now, because the last time I was in this room, I actually got married. So thank you. Thanks. So a year and a half ago, I stood right here and I said my vows to the love of my life. And now today I'm honored to be here to share another love with you guys, my work. I am ridiculously passionate about human connection, about real human interactions, about seeing the human spirit. And today we're actually going to take a journey together around the world. And on this journey, I want you to see people, to see culture, to see humanity. I feel like real face-to-face human interaction, it's kind of fading away in our society, and it is so extremely important. So I hope that in this journey that we take together, you guys learn a little something about the world, but more importantly, you learn about yourself. You learn about the relationships you have, how you interact with other people. And you learn the profound ability that you have to impact the people around you. So this journey around the world is going to start in a fairly unexpected place. It's going to start in Las Vegas. I know, it's not exactly where you think of when you think of like wholesome humanity, right? Because you don't have to raise your hand, it's a professional environment, but we've all been there, you know, the Strip. Lights, gambling, casinos, indulgence. That's what you think of when you think of Vegas, right? But there's another side of Vegas, and it's one you've probably never heard of before. See, underneath the Las Vegas Strip, there are 300 miles of flood channels. And within these flood channels, the homeless live. So they live underground. They have no electricity, no running water, no privacy, no plumbing. They're totally exposed to the elements. And a couple times a year, when it rains in Vegas, these flood channels do what they were designed to do. So they rush the rainwater out of the city at speeds of 30 miles an hour. So imagine twice a year a river shows up in your living room. Now, I learned about these tunnels reading an article written by a local journalist, and I couldn't understand why someone, even if they were homeless, they would choose to live underground. So I reached out to the journalist and I asked him if he would take me into these tunnels, and he agreed. So I flew from Detroit. I'm from Detroit, I'm a Detroiter, and I flew to Vegas and I went into the tunnels. And there I met a man named Billy. So the photograph you're seeing, I'm sitting in the chair with my back to the camera, and I'm talking to a man named Billy. The guy standing up, he's the journalist who took me down in these tunnels. And Billy was homeless. He had been homeless for 20 years. He was a U.S. veteran, and unfortunately, as happens to many of our veterans, when he returned from service overseas, he became homeless. He was sober. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't do any drugs. And he let me interview him. So I asked him all those questions that we think when you see a homeless person, but they're slightly inappropriate and you never really ask, you know, like, how'd you become homeless? And why don't you go get a job? And when's the last time you took a shower? And how much money do you make when you hold that cardboard sign on the side of the road? And all those questions we kind of wonder. And at the end of the interview, I asked Billy if he could have anything in the world, what would he want? And his answer will surprise you. So I want to play a quick clip for you. It's 1 minute long. It's narrated by the journalist. And at the end of the 1 minute, you'll hear Billy's answer to my question.
There are 300 miles of underground flood channels in Las Vegas, and hundreds of people live in these tunnels. I think it's the contrast, the gambling cathedrals of the Strip, and then right down here you have people living on a cardboard mat in this black and gray underworld. I've become good friends with a lot of the people down there, and Billy is among those.
How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm breathing.
That's good. Breathing's
I'm
good.
standing.
He's just a funny guy. He's caring. He's honest.
This is where I sleep. This is a cot. It ain't much, but it sure as does beat sleeping on the rocks. First night I was homeless, I wrapped up in bubble paper. I was freezing my ass off. At one time, most I've ever went is 7 days with nothing to eat. I fought for you, and I got to stand here with a sign that says, "So you'll give me something so I don't have to starve tonight or go dig in a damn dumpster." I'd love to hold my kids before I die. I'd love to be able to hold my grandkids before I die. That's what I want.
So Billy said, I would love to hold my kids before I die. I'd love to hold my grandkids before I die. And it gave me goosebumps when he said it. And it makes me tear up today because I became a mother this year, and it hits me differently. But it reminded me that we are all human. And underneath the judgments and the assumptions that I had about Billy because he was experiencing homelessness, he's just a man. He's just a father. He's a human being. How often do we just skip over the human beings around us and we look at them for what they produce for us or what their role is here, and we don't see the actual person underneath? So today I'm here to speak to the human that's inside of you, the one deep down. It's the same as the human that's inside of me and the one that's inside of Billy. My job is to tell the stories of our humanity. So I am a documentary filmmaker and a humanitarian advocate. I traveled the globe with a camera and a cameraman. I brought one here today. Everyone say hi to Noah. He's one of my cameramen. And he and I travel to different places around the world and film the real life experiences that I have meeting people. My films tell stories of hope, of empathy, of people helping people. I've been to over 62 countries around the world, and it's a pretty cool job. Honestly, sometimes I feel like a female Indiana Jones. But I've published over 40 humanitarian films, and these films have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to help the people that I have met. And in all of my travels and all of my work, I've learned two main lessons. The first is that we are all so much more alike than we think we are. And the second is that every single person has a profound ability to impact others. That we impact the people around us far more than we think we do. So today, I'm here to push you, to challenge you to expand your view of what is possible for your work, for your relationships, for your interactions with others. Now, I know you're all incredible entrepreneurs. I know that you're good people. I know you're community-oriented. That's why you're here today. But I also know that you're holding back on how much you are giving of yourself to others. And the good news is that it's not as hard as you think it is to make that profound impact. Simply having empathy or compassion for someone else, it will take you further than you think it will. There's a ripple effect to kindness, and a small act of kindness that you do for someone today, it can ripple into an impact in their life far greater than you could have ever imagined. I've seen miracles happen in my work just from showing a little understanding, a little compassion for someone in the present moment. So today we're going to talk a lot about empathy, and I want to define empathy for you because empathy is often misused, the word's misused, and it's misunderstood. So empathy is the capacity to understand and share the feelings of another. Or more simply put, I like this definition better, it's the ability to feel with someone else. Now, empathy is different than sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorrow or pity for someone else. Sympathy is feeling bad for them. And that's where a lot of people get these confused. People will say, oh, I'm an empath and I just can't even watch that story of that child with cancer. I can't even watch that movie because it's got a dog in it and I just feel too much. That's actually sympathy that you're feeling because you're feeling bad for them. You're feeling bad for that situation. Empathy is trying to put yourself in their shoes. Empathy is trying to see what life looks like for this other person. Now, we live in a world that's increasingly in need of empathy. Don't you agree? Empathy is where understanding comes from. It's where negotiation comes from. It's where compromise comes from. Empathy is about people coming together to see other people's perspectives. And sociologists started to study empathy to see what makes some people more empathetic than others. And at first they thought empathy was a genetic trait. Like you're born a certain height and you're also going to have a certain level of empathy. But then they thought, no, it's a personality trait, like how some people are really funny and other people are really creative, some people are empathetic. But it's actually now understood that empathy is a skill set, that you can teach empathy, you can learn empathy, and you can practice being an empathetic person. So this quote, don't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. You've all heard this before. This is the epitome of empathy. It's like summarize it in one sentence and here it is. This is a famous American proverb. It actually dates back to our Native Americans. So it started in the Cherokee tribe. There's your fun fact of the day. And as a filmmaker, I was looking at this quote and I thought, what if I could take this from a figure of speech and make it real? What would happen if I literally walked a mile in someone else's shoes? So I created a documentary series and I called it Walk a Mile. I know, it's very creative. And in the series, I travel to step into the shoes of other women around the world. These are impoverished women, and I'm going to show empathy for them and try to understand what their life is like. So I go to their homes, I meet their families, I go to work with them, I understand their goals, their dreams, their struggles. I also will be able to see some of the solutions to their problems, some of the incredible nonprofits around the world that are empowering women every day. Small business loans, skills training, literacy classes, access to health care, legal, financial, emotional support, all of the different ways that nonprofits empower women. And I could use my films, my episodes, to raise money to help support these different charities. Because there's 26 miles in a marathon, Walk a Mile is a 26-episode series. So it's 26 episodes featuring 26 different women in 26 different countries, benefiting 26 different women's empowerment charities. It's a global marathon for women's empowerment. And it's an ongoing series. So I am actively filming, editing, publishing these miles. If you looked up my website, which I think a couple of you did your homework, you might see that there are 10 episodes that are live, videos that you can watch, fundraisers that are actively trying to help support these women. And I have the rest of my marathon to walk. But I have learned that there's sort of this process that I go through when I walk a mile in these women's shoes. So I wanted to teach you my process today, the goal being that you can take this process and walk a mile in someone's shoes in your own life, maybe someone that you work with or a family member, and you can show true empathy for that person and see maybe you can actually impact them in a really positive way. So the first step is to break up your routine. You see, we live in a society that really values routine. We have morning routines, we have the way that we store our leftovers, and we have the way that our company does billing and accounting, and we just like to do things the way that we do them. And we tend to do things the way that they've always been done. And on top of that, we also tend to surround ourselves by people who are like us. As human beings, we like to be comfortable. So we all create a bubble. And we tend to surround ourselves by people who look like us and talk like us and think like us and believe like us. And we all do it, so don't feel bad about it. Like every single person, they live in a bubble. That's where we're comfortable. And modern society, it actually reinforces our bubbles. Because now instead of sitting down and doing business with someone face to face, you can do it over email. Or you can have your groceries delivered to your home so you never actually need to interact with a cashier. Our world is becoming more and more isolated, and we are living in our bubbles, and then we're doing our routines every day in our bubbles. The other problem with routines is that often it's like a to-do list, it's a task list. So your routine is a bunch of stuff that you have to do, and you kind of skip over all of the people that you're going to interact with all throughout your day. We look at routines as a way to make us efficient, right? That's what we want, is efficiency and productivity. But they actually also make us very unhappy. There's a neurological study that says that the reason that people have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning is because they can predict every single thing that will happen to them that day, because they live their life in a routine. It's almost like autopilot. So the first step is to break it. Break out of autopilot. Do something different to see the people around you. So it could be you go knock on your neighbor's door that's lived there for 3 years and you still don't know their name. Actually walk over and knock on the door and introduce yourself. Or it could be that you go to lunch with someone that you don't really know very well, but you see them all the time. Or you could go an extreme route and you could go spend an entire work day with one of your employees undercover boss style and see what does their life look like. And when you do that, you see that people live very different lives. And we need to open ourselves up and acknowledge the lives that other people are living and the struggles that they have. So in mile number 1, I just threw this photo in there because I really love it. So it's a drone shot that I took in Sri Lanka. Those are little wooden canoes, if you can't tell, and they're on a shoreline. And to me, I love this photo because it looks like these canoes are really hesitant to go out into the water. Like they're like clinging to the shore. And to me, that just represents how we cling to what we know, and we are so hesitant to break out into the unknown. But there's an ocean waiting for these canoes. And that's how I really feel. If you can burst out of your bubble a little bit, there's a whole world out there that you can engage with that we choose not to. So now on to mile 1 in Tanzania. So I went to walk with a woman named Elizabeth, and she lives a life very different from the one that I live. So Elizabeth lives in a small village called Mwanza, Tanzania. And like a good hostess, as soon as I arrived, she took me to her home, where I went in and I saw her kitchen. Now, Elizabeth cooks her food over open flame, which is the way that many women in developing countries cook. So essentially, they make a bonfire in their kitchen and they cook their food over it. The problem with this, besides the fact that all of your walls are covered in soot, is that you're breathing in all of that smoke. You guys have had bonfires in the summer, and you know when the wind shifts and the smoke comes towards you, it's like awful. And that's what these women breathe in when they're preparing food. Cooking 3 meals a day for your family over open flame, you would inhale the equivalent of if you smoked 2 packs of cigarettes. And women inhale that amount of toxic smoke every day. Respiratory disease is the #1 killer of women in developing countries simply from preparing food for their families. It's incredible. It's a huge global problem that honestly most of us have no idea about. But there's an incredible nonprofit in Mwanza, Tanzania, and they empower women to find entrepreneurial solutions to their own community problems. So they taught Elizabeth how to make cook stoves. So she molds these cook stoves out of clay, like a little pottery piece, and it's almost like a little camp stove. So you can move it outside, you can move it inside. It contains the smoke. It uses a lot less wood or charcoal if you can afford it. And it's a clean, safe way for women to cook. So Elizabeth makes these stoves by hand and then she sells them at the local market. So it is a small business for her. It's providing an income to help pull her family out of poverty because she lives in extreme poverty. But it's also providing a solution for this community problem. So I would love to play a quick clip for you so you can see these stoves for yourself. When Elizabeth is making the stoves, you can see she has such skill and she takes such care in every move because this little pottery piece is going to drastically change someone's life. It's an incredible solution to this huge problem and it's just a little stove.
Baada ya kuanza kutengeneza majiko, nikaona maisha yangu yameanza kubadilika, familia ikaanza kupata nafuu, watoto nikaanza kusomesha kila kitu.
Women in particular tend to be at the bottom of the economic chain, so by focusing on women, we can actually help lift up the entire community.
Najisikia vizuri mno, yani najisikia amani. Hapa nilipo mwili yani unalaa tu yani, na mimi nitajitahidi, nitawashauri wanawake wenzangu. Najitahidi sana kuishauri Tanzania.
Please buy a stove. Buy 2 stoves, buy 10 stoves. It's just $20 and it will truly change someone's life. Please donate. So when I published Mile #1, I asked everyone to donate $20 to sponsor a stove to support Elizabeth's business. And the Walk a Mile campaigns, they aim to educate people about these issues around the world that often we have no idea about, activate people, encourage them, hit that button, give that 20 bucks, help someone else out, but also to inspire you to look outward a little bit, to see the lives that people are living around the world. Life is hard, and honestly, we have it really, really good. And you have such an ability to help people that often we just don't even realize because we're going through life on autopilot. So that's the first step. Get out of your comfort zone, break up your routine a little bit. The second step is actually just to start with one step. Because big change in the world, it comes in small steps. It's one person at a time, one conversation at a time, one step at a time. It's the little interactions. It's those little moments that add up. And those are the little moments that tend to have big outcomes at the end, big change. As a humanitarian, I work with women's empowerment and global poverty, and these are huge global issues. But I do it one woman at a time, one step at a time. And actually, when you take these big dreams that we have, these big goals, I know you guys have incredible goals for your business. You want to double your revenue. You want to expand, you want to walk a marathon around the world, whatever your big goal is, you're trying to write a book, whatever you're trying to do, try to reverse engineer it and actually just take the smallest steps possible. Because when you take the really small steps, you'll actually make more progress towards your goal. So here's an example. If I told you that your goal is to learn the middle name of every person in this room by the end of tonight, you would say, okay, silly goal, but whatever. After she's done speaking, I guess, I don't know how many people are in this room, like 60. We're gonna have 90 minutes. Okay, I got like 90 seconds. I really don't know anybody's middle name. So like you'll try to figure it out and it'll actually be like a little stressful and daunting. But if instead I said your goal is to learn one person's middle name, one other person's middle name, you would say, okay, What's your middle name?
Hughes.
Hughes?
Hughes.
Oh, Hughes. My middle name is Aaron. There you go. That took 20 seconds. That was easy. Okay, well, I could do that again. What's your middle name?
I don't have one.
You don't have a middle name. Even easier, faster. What's your middle name? Ruth. Ruth. Mine's Aaron. And you would actually end up learning more middle names if you set out just to learn one than if you set out to learn everybody's. Because when you take small steps, you actually make more progress towards those big, incredible goals that we all have. So I want to do an exercise with you right now. I want you to pick one person that you know of that is struggling right now. It could be someone that you work with, could be the new person on the team that can't quite keep up, could be the really old guy on the team that also can't quite keep up, could be someone in your family, could be your sister going through a divorce or your child who's struggling with mental health issues, but think of that one person's name. And then tonight, if it's a family member, or tomorrow, if it's a work colleague, I want you to be wildly curious about this person. Become curious. Walk up to them face to face and ask questions. Genuine curiosity questions, not like digging for your specific answer or I know how you could solve the problem and let me slide this into convo. But no, just genuinely be curious, be open-minded. Ask them how they're doing. Ask about their life. Listen. And if you are really listening, people will tell you what they need. People know what they need. You know what you need. You know what you need personally in your life. You know what you need for your business. You know it. The problem is that you don't trust people enough to share with them what you need. And you need to become the person that whoever is struggling trusts, that they can tell you what they need. Often when I tell people I do humanitarian work, they say, oh, Mallory, that is so amazing. I've always wanted to do something like that. I've always wanted to give back. There's so much need in the world. I just don't know what to do. Perfect. It is actually better if you don't know what to do. Just pick a person, be wildly curious, and let them tell you what to do. And when they do, that's when you give. Giving is the easy part. The hard part is being wildly curious enough that people trust you to tell you what they need. Now, you can go through this process with people that you're very close to or a total stranger, someone that's homeless on the street corner, or it could be your spouse. And you'll find that the closer you are to people, the easier it is to pick that one person because we know the issues that the people that we love are facing. We know who's struggling. We know the problems that they're facing. It's harder to be wildly curious about people that you know really well. It's easy for me to be wildly curious about Elizabeth in Tanzania because she lives a life so different from mine. It's harder for me to be wildly curious about my own husband. But that is how you actually get through to people and you reach people and help them. The next step in the process is to see the people and not the problem. So often we focus on problems. We love to talk about our problems. In business, you know the problems that your business is facing, whether you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have the right people, you can't keep the right people, whatever the problem it is that you're facing. Nationally, we know all the problems that we're facing. We know about inflation. We know about these hurricanes that are hitting us. We know all the political dramas, problems, problems, problems. But the problem with problems is that you end up feeling like you can't do anything really about it. Like there are these huge problems and you're just one person and what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? There's nationwide inflation, and I'm just one person, and what am I supposed to do? Or we have a change in leadership in our company. Wasn't my choice, and what am I supposed to do about it? Often you feel like it's not an even fight, you and this huge problem. But when you focus on the people, when you focus on individuals infected, well, now it's human to human. Now that's an entry point. That's a way that you can actually get in there and try to help, try to find a solution. So I want to share with you one of my miles where the problem was really evident. It was in your face. And it was mile number 7. I went to India. And I walked with a woman named Zakira. So it's like Shakira, but with a Z, Zakira. And as you can see, Zakira, she is an acid attack survivor. So she's like a burn victim. Now, you may never have heard of acid attacks. I hadn't until I went to India. But acid attacks are what it sounds like. It's attacking someone else with acid. And often this is a crime against women. It's gender-based violence. In Zakira's case, it was domestic violence. So if you can believe it or not, her husband threw acid on her with the goal of burning her. So every individual story is obviously very unique, but in Zakira's case, she and her husband were married. They were quite poor. They lived in Mumbai, and they had 2 children, 2 daughters. Her husband was a tuk-tuk driver, so he was like a taxi driver, and she wanted to earn more income for her family so that they could raise their standard of living and give a better life for their 2 daughters. So she started selling clothes door to door, like used clothes. And she actually became quite successful. She started earning some money, she started networking, she started making a little name for herself, her confidence started to rise. And when she out-earned her husband in a very demented, misogynistic way, he thought he would put her in her place and remind her who the man of the relationship was. So in the middle of the night, he picked up his 2 daughters out of the one bed that they all shared, and he poured boiling acid over his own wife. The next photo I'm going to show you, it's quite graphic. It's the before and after photo of the attack. So Zakira was 28 years old when this happened. The acid burned away 40% of the skin on her body. It was life-threatening. She lost an eye and an ear. They just melted away. It's one of the most gruesome things I can think of that you could do to another human being. And I would love for you to take a moment to watch a video and meet Zakira and hear about the attack from her in her own words. Zakira is an acid attack survivor. She had boiling acid thrown over her face while she was sleeping in the middle of the night. Her attacker was her own husband.
मेरे को दर्द जलन इतनी हो रही थी, इतनी तकलीफ हो रही थी कि मतलब ऐसा लग रहा था कि मैं कोई आग के अंदर बैठी हुई हूँ.
The acid burned away 45% of her skin. She was on the verge of death. Acid attacks seem like an unfathomable crime, and yet they happen every day in India. Zakira said that if her daughters think she's beautiful, it's the only thing that matters to her. We place so much importance on beauty. Their value isn't defined by their beauty, but by their strength. She deserves to reignite her power as the strong and beautiful woman that she is. So when I published Mile 7, the fundraiser goes to a fund, and I asked Zakira, what does she want the money for? And she had 2 things she wanted. First and foremost, she wanted her 2 daughters to be educated so that they could have a better life than she had. And secondly, she wanted funds so she could get back out there and start a second business. She had that entrepreneurial spirit. So if you watch Mile number 7 and you donate, that money will go to this fund for Zakira. you don't have to donate. I'm not here to ask for donations. But if you do, if you're so inclined, 100% of the money that I raise, it goes directly on the ground. I don't take a cut. It doesn't fund my travel. It's all to help the women. And I met Zakira in a rehabilitation center in India. These are some of the other women that were also there, all acid attack survivors. And to be honest, when I first met them, it was shocking. You know, it was their burns and their scars, they were right there, and you couldn't help but see them. But after spending a couple days with these women, I stopped seeing their scars. And I saw the strong, resilient, courageous women that they are. Because when we stop looking at the problems that people are facing, and instead we see the person that they are underneath, that's where you find strength. And that's where you find courage. That's where you find the human spirit. Zakira is one of the biggest teachers I have ever had in my life. I think about her all the time because she showed me when you are beaten down so low to a point where you're fighting for your life, but also just in such a horrific way that you could still rise up from that and show your face and want to live a better life and raise your children. And she is one of the strongest people I've ever met. That's what happens when you're looking at the people and you're not always just focused on the problems. So I told you Walk a Mile is ongoing, and the first 10 episodes took me around the world. So the first one was in Tanzania, where you met Elizabeth. The second was in Detroit. The third, Guatemala. Then Serbia, Uganda, Panama, India, that was Zakira, Sri Lanka, Honduras, and lastly, Israel. And I have 16 more to go. A marathon is a really long way. Are any of you guys marathon runners? No. Mad respect. Honestly, it's so long, 26 miles. It's sometimes overwhelming when I think how much more I have to go. But then I remember I'm not focused on the 16 more. That's the big goal. I'm focused on mile number 11. What's the next story I'm going to tell? What's the next woman I'm going to help? What's the next charity that I'm going to feature? One step at a time. And if I just focus on mile number 11, then I focus on mile number 12, I will eventually get to the finish line of the marathon. So here is where Walk a Mile has taken me so far. So there's one final step to this process of walking a mile in someone else's shoes. But before I tell you this, I want to ask you guys, have you guys found something of value in this presentation? Do you feel like you've learned something or it's moved you a little bit?
Yes.
Good. Hopefully. So I would really love it if you guys could take a second and pull out your phones and scan this QR code, because it will take you to a little survey. And I would love to know what it is that you liked about this presentation. If there's something that you didn't like, please also let me know. I'm always trying to do better in my presentations and share more. And at the end of the survey, there's a link, and it says get your bonus, and it will take you to Walk a Mile. So if you want to watch the full stories later on tonight or show your family, it'll be right there on your phone. So I'll just give you a couple minutes to fill this out, and then we'll get to the final story. Okay, I think most of you are done. If you need more time, you can take it. But I just want to move on to the last lesson, the last step in this process of walking a mile in someone else's shoes. And it is to leave room for miracles. Because although we all love a process, and we like to have strategic plans of how we're getting from A to B and how we're making stuff happen in our lives, the real magic in our work and in our life, it happens in those unplanned moments. Those moments of synchronicity, those moments of real human-to-human connection. And you have to believe in that, and you have to leave room for that. And that happens when you create a culture of empathy. If you can create an open culture in your workplace, a culture where your coworkers feel comfortable coming to you and telling you when they get that cancer diagnosis, you will open up a space for miracles to happen, a space where people can support each other. If you can create that culture in your home, a culture of empathy, of listening, of an open mind, your child will come to you when they're being bullied in school. If you create that culture with the people around you in your community, when someone is really going through it, when life is just so hard and they are hanging on by a thread, they will feel comfortable coming to you as a lifeline. If we can embody empathy and interact with the people around us and really see them, we can be that lifeline for people around us in need. And if you can do that, if you can open yourselves up to that, you will add so much more purpose in your days. There will be such a sense of meaning every time you go to work, every time you walk into your home, every time you say hi to your neighbor, because you'll be seeing the human being that they are. And they'll be seeing the human being that you are. And you'll be just two human beings really seeing each other and not just autopilot going through life. There's a ripple effect to kindness. One small act of kindness, it can ripple into incredible impact. And you may be looking at me thinking, yeah, Mallory, okay, I can be a little nicer. I could be open-minded, but we have real problems in the world, and there's a real work to get done. And is showing empathy for someone, is it really going to make a difference? Is it really going to move the needle? But it will. And I'll prove it to you. You remember this man, Billy, the father in Vegas? Well, I had followed my own little formula. Break up your routine, get out of your comfort zone. I was out of my comfort zone. I was in a tunnel in Vegas, not my comfort zone. See the person, not the problem. Okay, I wasn't seeing homelessness. I was seeing a man. Pick one person. Got it. Billy. Be wildly curious. Oh, I was super curious, and I was asking him all the questions, and he actually told me what he needed. He told me he wanted to hold his kids before he died. But I was stumped. It's like I followed my own prescription, but I didn't know how to help him. Same way you're not going to know how to cure your coworker's cancer. And as much as you want to, you can't go to school and stand up to the bully for your kid. And your neighbor whose finances are a total mess, you can't spend all of your money trying to fix their financial ruin. You're going to have moments where you feel like, I don't know how to help this person. But you can do something. And you do what you know how to do. So what I knew how to do is tell a story. I know how to do video fundraisers. So I told Billy's story. I made a video about Billy and I put it up on my YouTube channel and I asked people to donate. And in 24 hours, I raised $12,000 to help Billy and his friends in the tunnels. And I took that money and I bought them supplies. I bought them socks and shoes and flashlights and batteries and bus cards and phone cards and grocery cards. And I bought Billy a bike so he had some transportation. And I found a local dentist who would work on his teeth because after 20 years of being homeless, He only had 4 teeth left in his mouth. And I spent the $12,000 and I distributed it to Billy and his friends that sort of set up near him in the tunnels. And then I flew home. I came back to Detroit, and I thought I had done something nice. I had done a good thing to help. And then the miracle happened. I received an email from a woman named Brittany asking me for Billy's last name. Because you'll notice I only ever use people's first names. I don't really give away their true identification in my videos. So I only ever referred to him as Billy. And she wanted to know Billy's last name because if he was who she thought he was her father. And it was true. Billy was Brittany's father. She was 25 years old, and she had last seen her dad when she was 5. So I bought Billy a Greyhound bus ticket from Las Vegas to Houston, Texas, where Brittany lived. Brittany found him a job and a place to stay. And a couple years later, this is Billy today. It's incredible. He is a hard-working Texan. He fully embraced Texas lifestyle. He bought his own truck. He moved his second daughter from North Carolina, where they are originally from, to Houston. So both of his daughters and all of his grandchildren live within walking distance from his house. He sees them multiple times a week. This is a man that lived in tunnels for 20 years. And look at him today. And Billy and I stay in touch. He's like my biggest fan on social media, so if you follow me on social media, you'll see him liking everything. But he calls me his guardian angel. He says that after 20 years, you guys, of being homeless, once he met me, his whole life changed. And although that is very flattering, it is very flattering when someone calls you their guardian angel. I don't feel like I really did that much. I just told his story like he was a human being, not like he was some troll in a tunnel. I just saw him as a man and I treated him like a man, and look at what happened. His daughter opened her heart to him. He turned his life around because someone saw him as a human being. You can create an incredible impact if you can reach out to someone when they need you the most and you can show true empathy for them. You can be a game changer for them. You can be a lifesaver for them. So now here is the time when I send you all off on your own journeys. Remember what you learned today. Remember, don't go through life on autopilot. Break out of your routine sometimes. See the real people around you. See the people and not the problems that they're facing. See the person underneath that cancer diagnosis. That's how you're going to be able to help. And go one step at a time. Pick one person, pick one of your team members, and be wildly curious about them. So curious. Be curious about stuff you shouldn't be curious about, but just ask them questions face to face. And when they tell you what they need, that's when you give. And remember to keep your heart open for miracles. You guys can create this sort of culture in your life, in your workplace, in your home, and miracles can happen. You will be a better leader. You'll be a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better mother, and just a better human being. So I wish you all good luck on your journeys, going out to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. It is going to be an incredible ride. Thank you, guys.